I'm Ted Pike, and this is my wife, Lynn. Today, a foreign government, Israel, operates the most powerful lobby in Congress. This is AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Through control of Congress, Israel demands and gets nearly $5 billion annually. No elected official dares criticize Israel for fear the Jewish lobby will accuse him of anti-Semitism, the kiss of death for any politician. The president also knows what Israel wants, Israel gets. To act otherwise is political suicide. The mass media, founded and controlled primarily by Jews, manipulates the spigot of information out of which heartland America drinks. The message of this contaminated source is, if you criticize Israel, you are anti-Semitic. Be safe. Keep your head down, or you are fair game for being knocked off by the Zionist shooting gallery.
As a result, our president and elected officials are slaves to political correctness when it comes to Jews and Israel. They cannot seriously criticize Israel, especially as the source of Mideast strife and terrorism. They cannot suggest an end of aid to Israel. They cannot even protest Zionist control of Congress.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical open-border neoliberals, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews.
They call themselves Netenyahu, but it's just a stolen name, a Hebrew mask plastered over a European exile's face. His real name was Milikowski, born of Ashkenazi lineage from Poland. Benjamin Netanyahu has neither the blood, nor the land, nor the language of those he claims to represent. His Judaism is not that of the shepherds of Hebron, nor the poets of Jaffa. It is the Judaism of a colonizer from elsewhere who put on the prophet's robe to hide the scent of ashes. Because what he represents today is not a people, it is a machine, a political, military, ideological machine, a machine of steel and contempt. Netanyahu didn't grow up on the banks of the Jordan. He grew up in the salons of New York's conservative elite and the ultra-nationalist sermons of his father, Ben Zion, the hardline Zionist historian. He never spoke Arabic. He never shared bread with a Palestinian. He never had to bury a child beneath the rubble of an Israeli airstrike. He is not from this land. He took it. And yet he decides. He demolishes. He signs the orders. Today, under his rule, Gaza is a graveyard for children. Rafah, a field of ruins. Jenin, a ghost town.
Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death. A longtime friend of Kirk tells the Greystone how the late influencer's turning point on Israel provoked a private backlash that left him angry and afraid. Somebody said spreading more lies about Charlie through discernment and critical thinking, his eyes were open to the true nature of the Netanyahu syndicate, and it didn't sit well with him. Ominous, his BFF Candace Owens said they spoke frequently about Israel and said he was starting to change. It was a very small part of her tribute video. We'll see if she shares more in the future. I wasn't a fan of his, but the way the establishment is exploiting this is gross. Did Wolicki conclude after hours of talking to Charlie that they lost his support to genocide and AIPAC full influence on America? Then what? Charlie was assassinated? Would someone check what sort of report was given to Mossad?
I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? And honestly, they have a mandate to go seek justice and revenge. They do. This idea that they need to have a truce or a peace treaty, that's morally crap after you see women and children be burned alive and dragged to the streets. But there are some serious questions here, Patrick, and let me tell you, my pattern recognition over the last 5 years has become pretty sharp. COVID, Maui fires, Epstein. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right.
Yeah, so I made that video earlier. Now you just seen this clip. There was also another clip because a lot of these clips of him speaking out against certain things and making his own observation over the past couple months, they're starting to resurface. And of course, I had never seen any of them. There was this one that I just watched with him and Megyn Kelly, and he again states, that he has support for a certain place, but also that he is questioning and he is observing something similar to a certain time in Germany. And he also states in that video how he's an American citizen, Megyn Kelly, like we're Americans, but somehow I feel more censored here as an American, that I'm not allowed to talk or say certain things about certain people somewhere else. It just makes you question. It's
interesting. The same guy is the Israeli agent who earlier this year was given a government contract to provide MAGA and pro-Trump influencers tours of Israel. That's a devil right there. Demonic. Israel to fund tours for MAGA and pro-Trump influencers. I'm not going to read all this. I don't want to waste my breath on this crap. Israel is working to boost its image in the U.S. by providing AIPAC-style junkets to MAGA and pro-Trump influencers who will disseminate Hasbara propaganda to their followers. Such a shame. Wolicki gave an interview about his final meeting with Charlie Kirk to the New York Post on Saturday. He was working out talking points to defend Israel, playing the role of devil's advocate, pushing us on these issues, trying to sharpen the iron, he said. Evidently, Rabbi Wolicki's Israel 365 published an article about this Hasbara training on Sunday, specifically to push back against reports claiming Charlie Kirk was breaking with Israel behind the scenes. It's titled Charlie Kirk's Legacy, Unwavering Support for Israel. Of note, they say Josh Hammer, who works with Israel 365, was another person on the call. On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley University while launching his American Comeback Tour. Within hours, claims began circulating online that he had recently broken with Israel and was killed as a result. Anti-Israel influencers such as Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson pointed to short video clips in which Kirk expressed frustration over backlash from pro-Israel activists. These clips have been circulated online as supposed evidence of a break with Israel. According to a report published by the New York Post, more than 10,000 posts on X have falsely linked his assassination to Israel. Law enforcement has rejected these claims. Utah police have arrested 22-year-old Tyler Robinson for aggravated murder. Authorities have found no evidence connecting Robinson or Kirk's death to Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mourned him as a lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall. In fact, just the night before his death, Kirk held a Zoom call with Rabbi Pisha Wolicki and commentator Josh Hammer to prepare responses to anti-Israel questions he expected to face on college campuses. Wolicki described Kirk as excited to get back out on the campus tour and in a combative mood, preparing for debates and attacks. Kirk, the co-founder of Turning Point USA, had built a national reputation as a strong supporter of Israel. He condemned the October 7 Hamas massacre, backed Israel's war against Hamas, and agreed to headline the Zionist Organization of America's upcoming national gala. While he occasionally criticized specific Israeli government decisions and acknowledged that not all conservatives in the America First movement shared his views, his overall record of support for Israel never wavered. No non-Jewish person my age has a longer or clearer record of support for Israel than I do, he told the Jewish Telegraph Agency. Earlier this year, days before his death, he reiterated to I'm very pro-Israel. My whole life I have defended Israel. Charlie Kirk remained a committed supporter of Israel until his final hours, preparing to defend it on the very tour where he was cut short. Looking back, I should have referred to this purported Zoom meeting as an alleged call. The only sources are Rabbi Wolicki and Josh Hammer, both of whom have a clear agenda. Israeli agent Rabbi Pashak Wolicki, who gave Charlie Kirk Hasbara coaching just hours before his death, says it really hurt Charlie when the Jewish community came down on him for platforming certain speakers at his last conference who were anti-Israel. I was not happy that Charlie had given the stage to people like Tucker Carlson who were spewing venom about the Jewish state. He really believed, to a fault, I believe, in allowing every voice to be heard. So I guess that means we're not supposed to be heard if we question anything about Zio. There were many prominent people in the America First movement who would privately speak to Charlie and message him, trying to get him to drop his support for Zio.
Charlie had criticisms for the state of Israel. He was very supportive and really loved the state of Israel and the Jewish people, but he also had his criticisms, and it really hurt him when the Jewish community came down on him for platforming certain speakers at his last conference who were anti-Israel and even slid into anti-Semitism. And while I was not happy that Charlie had given the stage who were spewing venom about the Jewish state, Charlie was a big believer in the open marketplace of ideas, in allowing all opinions to be heard, letting the best opinions win. That's why he built his career on those famous debates, going to college campuses to engage in honest dialogue, letting every opinion have its moment, and letting people decide what is true. And therefore, he really believed, to a fault, I believe, in allowing every single voice to be heard. Now again, was I happy that he was platforming people who were spewing anti-Israel and anti-Semitic messages? Of course not. But when so many people in the Jewish community and the pro-Israel community were criticizing Charlie so harshly for platforming these problematic voices, he was very hurt. And he was hurt because what many people don't realize is that Charlie spent a lot of his time defending Israel, both publicly at the college campus events that he was so famous for. Many people don't realize that upwards of 40 or 50% of all of the questions Charlie would receive, the challenges that he would get at these campus events from students, were attacking Israel and attacking Charlie for being so pro-Israel. And also privately, there were many other prominent people in the America First movement who would privately speak to Charlie and message him, trying to get him to drop his support for Israel. So he was out there defending Israel on a regular basis, even with all his criticisms. It really hurt him when there was this harsh criticism calling him all kinds of names because he was willing to platform voices the pro-Israel community or the Jewish community were uncomfortable with.
So, seemed like Charlie was waking up. I've been kind of looking into, what is his religious affiliation, etc. And I did discover that Erica is Roman Catholic, unless the information I got is wrong. So he was pretty much sympathetic with the Zios, and I'm using that word just because I don't want to be anti-Semitic. I am not against Jewish people. Jesus Christ came from the tribe of Judah, which in reality are the only true Jews. That's where the word Jew came from, Judah. There were 12 tribes, and they went in all different directions. So, speaking against Israel is not anti-Semitic. Netanyahu is not a Semitic. He is more of a type of Nazi, literally. I don't know who all he's related to or anything else. I just know that it was the Rothschilds who financed the takeover of Jerusalem. So, anyway, it is my belief that Israel, who was really just a name given to Jacob after he wrestled with the so-called angel, that what we're seeing now, the modern state of Israel, is that great city, Babylon. And they've pretty much taken over the United States government, so I guess that would include that too. I've been a Bible student since I was 12 years old. And I've known for many years that God wrote a letter of divorcement to them because of their adultery with other fake gods, which they worship even now. They are not looking for Jesus Christ as the Messiah. They are looking for Metatron, whose other name is Yeshua. I would never in my wildest dreams call Jesus Christ Yeshua. That's one of the biggest lies that's ever existed. God bless.
Foundation is the biggest organized crime family that I know of. For example, Hillary Clinton took money from the Russians to sell American uranium to Russia. She took money from the Saudi Arabians to sell Syria and Yemen to Saudi Arabia and to justify ISIS and protect ISIS. Hillary Clinton is probably the single most corrupt politician in U.S. history since Lyndon Baines Johnson. And as Secretary of State, money would come into the Clinton Foundation and U.S. support would go out. And by the way, the reason we have 1,000 military bases is not for military power. They're lily pads for smuggling. That is how CIA smuggles gold, guns, drugs, cash, and small children for the elites in the United States. War is a profit center, not just for oil. War produces body parts. It produces orphans. It produces all kinds of human goods that can then be trafficked. And the banks rely on war and drugs for their cash flow, for their liquidity.
And it's just the absurdity of it, some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder. And, I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to, make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing it's not only insane, I think it's so absurd absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this, but they go. They have no limits. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything and promote all these absurd rumors. And by the way, they're willing to kill us all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things, that continued actually up to the Holocaust. The Nazis said the same thing. We're carrying vermin. We're spreading disease. And people believed it. And every time they believed it, this was a prelude to a greater and greater massacre, culminating with the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust. Well, since then, we've learned, when people spread these lies about us, prepare yourself for the assault. And, they're trying to delegitimize the state of Israel. Charlie Kirk said to me that, he wrote me this detailed letter, you have to fight the slander. These untruths, these vilifications have consequences. And he was right. But I'll tell you one thing, we're fighting on the battlefield against the terrorists and winning. And he was fighting on the battlefield of ideas. And I think he was winning. He was going to win. That's why they shot him. I hope they don't silence him. I don't think people will give in to these ridiculous lies.
I just want to say this to our Christian friends, just to call it as it is and say it straight out, you guys are worshiping one Jew. That's a mistake. You should be worshiping every single one of us, because we all die for your sins every single day. And that's exactly what's going on here. We're all God's firstborn, and we're dying for your sins right now because the Jewish people in the land of Israel are the bulwark against the orcs.
To say there's nothing wrong, 'cause my heart can feel right through your camouflage. To try to tell me you'll be strong, I've been there too. I know this road is hard. Oh, yeah.
When the ache feels stronger than the strength you feel inside.
I want to read something to you. this quote, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support the bolstering of Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is part of our strategy to isolate the Palestinians in Gaza from the Palestinians in the West Bank. That was Prime Minister Netanyahu in 2019, supporting Hamas, because he knows that as long as Hamas remains there, he can always argue that there is no partner for peace. During our lifetime, there have been two moments when peace could have happened. One was in the early 90s with the Oslo Accords, which were negotiated by Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat, and both of them were awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for that. Tragically, 2 years after those accords, a right-wing Israeli settler assassinated Yitzhak Rabin, and after the end of that, the peace process came to an end. The second moment came not so long ago in 2016 when John Kerry, as Secretary of State, put forward a peace proposal. That proposal was accepted by the Palestinian Authority and it was rejected by one Netanyahu. So I think it's really important. I do believe, Gabriel, that there is an opportunity for peace. It's the only way that Israel will secure its long-term future. And I genuinely believe that what we should be saying to our politicians is that you've got to stop using language which actually in the real world makes no sense. It sounds like...
Are you including your Conservative?
I'm including the Conservatives and actually the leader of the opposition. In the real world, it sounds insensitive. It sounds like it's one-sided. It sounds hypocritical. And it sounds like you do not understand the depth of this issue. And it goes no way towards actually resolving the issue. All you do is embolden Netanyahu, a man who is mired in allegations of corruption, who actually in his cabinet has a minister who has been convicted of terrorism, another minister who is a self-confessed fascist, and who are governing on the basis of a coalition agreement which denies the very right of the Palestinian state to exist.